Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do this homework on references and formulas. So we have the instructions in the clean data sheet right here, and this is a copy of the cleaned class survey data, but I've deleted some of the columns, so it's just not quite as long. So in this sheet, our first instruction is, what are the variables in this data set? List a few of the variables. How many variables are there? So my intention was you would just answer this like right here in the text box. So what are the variables in this data set? List a few of them. So the first one is this first column over here, year at SU. The next one is age, high school GPA, etc. So it's the columns. So the variables are the things that we are measuring or that we're observing or categorizing. And how many variables are there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, looks like 14. If you weren't sure, there's actually a way to count in Excel if you just select all of the column headings here. There's a little thing at the bottom of Excel down here where it says count 14. That's how many cells you have selected. I believe there's also, if I select, oh, sometimes it shows it over here like your range, but right now it's not doing it. Okay, so there are 14. All right. What are the observation units in this data set? How many observation units are there? The observation units are like, what are we taking these measurements from? What are we collecting these variables from? And that's going to be on our rows here. So each row is one person, one student, in particular a statistics student with Dr. Jensen, me, and we can count how many rows there are as well. They are students. If you want to be a little more detailed, you could say who took stats with Dr. Jensen. And how many of them are there? So we can count the same way, or we can just look at these row numbers. So the first row is the headings, but the rest of them should be students. So there's 205 rows, and one of them was the headings. So that's 204 students. Okay, so that's that question. Next, which of the variables are qualitative? List them. So qualitative variables are usually text, but technically a qualitative variable is a variable where the values are categories and not quantities. So you don't have a number of something, you have a category of something. So the first one is this year at SU, because these are categories, freshman, sophomore, junior, high school. The next one is worst grade. Then we have gender, and I think there's a couple more if I scroll up. Let me see. So countries visited is quantitative, action movie rank, all the movie ranks, those are quantitative, own laundry age is quantitative, and then these last two are qualitative. So favorite season and favorite color. So those are the qualitative ones. The next instruction, right-click on the E above column E and insert a new column. Title the new column worst grade GPA. Okay, so let me do that. E above column E, right-click that, insert, and we're going to call this worst grade GPA. So basically what we're doing is we're going to copy the data from the worst grade column to the worst grade GPA column. Okay, so there's a couple ways to do this. So you could just select, starting from the first grade under worst grade, you could just click and drag down to select all of these. That's fine. And then just Control-C, Control-V. Another way to do it to select is you could click on the first one, cell D2, and then hold down Shift, which will expand your selection. And then you can use arrow keys to go down like this. Or if you want to go down to the bottom, you can do, while you're still holding down Shift, do Control down arrow, and it'll take you down to the last cell that had anything in it. As you notice, though, there's some blank cells, so like you actually have to keep going and hit the arrow key down a couple more times to get all the way to the bottom. That's more useful if you have like thousands of rows, but you can practice it here. Okay, so then I'm just going to do Control C, copy, click over here on cell E2, Control V, paste. Okay, so now I've made a copy of the worst grades. So that was number 4. And now for number 5, use find and replace to replace each grade under worst grade GPA with the corresponding GPA. So your GPA is made by turning letter grades into numbers, and the way it works is an A is 4 points, B is 3 points, C is 2 points, D is 1 point, F is 0 points. And then those are averaged together to get your like overall GPA. But this is just a convenient way for us to assign numbers to letter grades so we can take an average. All right, so I'm going to select, I'm only going to select the letter grades and not the title heading because I don't want to replace the A there like with a 4. So I'm going to start on cell E2, shift control, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow. Okay, I got all of them there. If you're annoyed by this little moving boundary around where you copied before, you can actually just hit escape and that will like dump the contents of your clipboard and make that go away. Okay, so now that I have the area selected where I want to do the find and replace, I'm going to go to the Home tab, Editing, Find and Select, Replace, or you can type, I believe, Control F. Yeah, and then click on the Replace tab. Okay, so this should be a pretty easy find and replace because everything is just a single letter. So I'm going to find A and replace it with a 4, and then I'll just click Replace All. It should only do it in that column that you selected, the cells that you selected. Replace B with 3. So, okay, I'm going to do C with 2 and D with 1 and F with 0. Okay, and then I'm just going to scroll past all these numbers and make sure they all look okay to me and there's nothing weird. Okay, looks like we did them all. All right, now let's see what's next. So that was number 5. Number 6, insert a new column after own laundry age, call it years doing laundry. Okay, in the first cell under the heading, write a formula to calculate how many years that student has been doing their own laundry. Hint, equals something minus something. So that's what your formula is going to look like, equals something minus something. For example, if someone is 17 and have been doing their own laundry since they were 10, their years doing laundry is 7. So hopefully with that you can see what do you need to subtract. So you're going to subtract their current age minus when they started doing their laundry. Okay, so age minus laundry age. By the way, I think the laundry age is the most interesting variable in this whole data set, but you'll have to wait a little bit to find out why that is. Maybe you can guess. So I'm going to right click on the next column and I'll do insert and I'll call this years doing laundry or something like that. And now my formula here, I'll write it in the first cell. So I'm going to do equals, and I want to do this person's age minus their laundry age. So I'm just going to scroll over. You can use the arrow keys or the like scroll bars. Get over to their age. There it is. So now you see it's put the reference up here in this bar above the spreadsheet. And then I'm going to type minus or hyphen. Okay, and then I'm going to use the arrow keys again to go to their laundry age, which was just the next cell over from where I was writing the formula. And now you should have the whole formula in there correctly. This is what it looks like up here. And I'm just going to hit enter, and it should go ahead. And let's just make sure it did this first one correctly. So they started laundry at 12, and now they're 18. So yeah, they've been doing it for 6 years, and we got a 6. Yeah, looks good. Oh, wow, someone's been doing their laundry for a whopping 12 years. That's amazing. And a lot of zeros, too, like people that started when they got to college. 6, that is amazing. Okay, I do see a couple of value errors because things were left blank. So I'm just going to delete the values in those cells that have errors. If there are any, yeah, there's a few more. Delete that. delete that just so that we can actually take an average. Wow, 13 years. And that's so that, yeah, so that we can take an average without getting an error from that. Okay, and I believe that was the last instruction in this sheet. So now we're going to switch to the statistics sheet, and we're going to do a few more things there. So switch to this sheet. All right, so in this sheet, we have some labels here of the things that we're going to calculate. So the number one here is use the formulas equals average, parentheses, and equals median, parentheses, to fill in the cells B1 to B11. Right, so starting with B1 here, this one we're doing average worst grade GPA. So I'm going to type equals A, V, E. And now I can see it in the autocomplete list here. If I use the down arrow to go to average, and then I can press tab, then it puts in the formula name for me automatically. And it gives me a little tip here, like what kind of things to put in the parentheses. I should put a list of numbers. I did put some instructions though here, sorry, for you guys. Inside the parentheses of the formula, type table 1. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to type table 1, and I get another autocomplete that I can use if I want. And then I'm going to type a left square bracket, like that, and it's going to give me some options for the variable. So I'm going to scroll down to, what did I want? Worst grade GPA. Okay, so that's the one I want, and so I'm going to hit tab. And now I just have to close my square bracket, close, and then close my parentheses, close, and then hit enter. Okay, and this is the average worst grade GPA. So I'm going to keep doing this process for the next 10 cells here. And I'm just going to change like whether it's the median or the average, and then which variable I'm using. So this is worst grade GPA again. Unfortunately, I can't really do like a click and drag or anything because these are just some different selected ones. They're not like right next to each other like what we did in class. So average, table 1, bracket, years doing laundry. I know it's kind of tedious, this part, but when you think about how hard this would be to actually do without some kind of software like this, then maybe you can appreciate like that this is saving us like so incredibly much work. Okay, so I did put the next 5 are the movie genres because I wanted to allow you guys to actually compare like what movie genre do we all prefer the most overall. I thought that would be interesting. So we're going to do action first. And then people. I hope you guys actually can like feel yourselves that it is faster to use the arrow keys to navigate around, because you don't have to like pick up your hands and move them to the mouse or to the trackpad or whatever. So if you guys can get used to doing those keyboard shortcuts and stuff, it is actually way faster. Comedy. Even though there's like a little bit of a learning curve, so at first it might not be faster as you're learning them, but eventually you see how fast I'm doing it, like you'll get much faster over time. Horror. And then last one is romance, and I just want to make sure I'm getting different numbers every time so I'm not accidentally doing the same variable more than once. Okay, that was the movie rankings, and they are all 5 different, and they look like they're in the right range between 1 and 5, so that's good. If I got some crazy value here, like in the hundreds, then I would know I did something wrong. Okay, average countries visited, all data. So I'm going to do this one the same way I did the others. Average, table 1, bracket, go down to countries visited, tab, close bracket. You can actually leave off the right parenthesis. Excel never makes you do that one if you forget about it. See, it still works. It just lets us be a little bit lazy. And then the median countries visited. So median, table, bracket, countries, tab, bracket. Okay. And then what's going on with these last 2 here is I actually wanted to see what happens if we delete the maximum answer to the countries visited question, because there was someone who said that they had been to 161 countries, right? If you go back here to the data and sort it from largest to smallest, there's this person who said they went to 171 countries. 30 countries, like, or 22, 21, like, I could actually, oops, I could believe that. You see when I got that error message just now, I just hit escape so fast to, like, undo whatever I was doing. That's the power of a keyboard. These people, I believe they really did it, but 161, I'm not sure if I believe that person. I think they might have been lying, or their parents are, like, really interesting. So I wanted to see what would happen to the average and the median if we delete that value. So I actually made a copy of the country data here in another sheet so that you can reference to it without using the table. So back in the stats column for this last one, or the last two, I'm going to do equals, average, and now I'm not going to go to the table. I'm going to click on the countries max val deleted sheet, and I'm going to select all of column A. It's the fastest way to do it. And then just hit enter. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but the median, go to the countries tab, click column A, hit enter. Okay. And then we're going to compare some of these answers in a minute. All right, so going back to the list of instructions here, number 2. Oh, you know what? I think I accidentally skipped ahead and I just did number 4 ahead of time. Oh well. Okay, so going back to number 2, what letter grade does the average worst grade GPA correspond to? A, B, C, D, F, something in between? And how about the median? Right, so when we look at this average worst grade here, 1.74, like, what letter grade is that? Is that an A, B, C, D? So a C is a 2 and a D is a 1. So this is between a C and a D. That's the average worst grade. But it's a little bit hard to, like, say, I mean, it's closer to a 2, right? So, like, it's closer to a C than a D. We could actually maybe use, like, pluses and minuses to interpret it. So I think a C minus is 1.67, so, like, 1/3 less than a C. So that's pretty close to a C minus. It might not be fair to give it that minus plus interpretation, though, since we didn't ask the people originally about their minuses and pluses. I don't know. So this is between, I'm going to type my answers in here. So the average is between D and C, closer to D, or sorry, closer to C, maybe a C minus around there. And then the median is directly, you can see that the median is always an actual value from the data set. So we can interpret it easily. So the median is A. Okay. Number 3, using the averages of the 5 movie genres, how do the students overall rank the 5 categories? Which genre do they prefer? I should have called this the 5 genres. Which genre do they prefer the most on average, second most, etc.? And I just put a hint here to remind you, the lower the number, the more they prefer it. So your number 1 choice was your favorite, number 2 was your second favorite. Right, so the lower averages are the more preferred. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is basically just look at these averages, the 5 averages, and just see which is the lowest. So it looks like the lowest was comedy. So that is the most preferred overall. So lowest is comedy. And then, what was the second lowest? Action. So it's like comedy, action, and then animation, horror, and romance. Comedy, action, animation, horror, and last is romance. Kind of unsurprising. Everybody loves comedies. Romance not for everybody. All right. So that's an interesting way that you can kind of get, like, an overall preference, even though it seemed like, it might have seemed kind of like categorical or qualitative data, but it's numerical enough that we can use it to do things like this. All right, so we already did number 4 ahead of time. And then, so for number 5, how much did leaving out the maximum value of 161 affect the average number of countries visited? How much did it affect the median number of countries visited? And why does it affect one more than the other? Okay, so the average, when you delete that one value, it goes from 2.925 down to 2.13, approximately. So it decreases, like, a lot, like almost 0.8 or a little less than 0.8. So the average goes down by about 0.8 when we delete the answer 161. So that's a lot. Like, that's almost a whole country. And the average was already pretty small, so that affected it a lot. You could figure out exactly how much it went down, of course, by, write yourself a little formula like equals this one minus this one, 0.79. The median, however, did not change at all. The median did not change at all. And why did one change a bunch and the other didn't change at all? Well, it's just how the formula works, or like the way that it's calculated works. That's like the mathematical answer. So when you're taking the average, you're summing all the values, right? And 161 is a really big number, so it changes the sum a lot, especially considering that most people put 0 or 1. Having 161 for one of those responses when there were only about 200 responses, that's a huge change. So you want to just type something here about that. The average changed a lot because we have to take the sum of all the answers, and 161 is a huge number in comparison to the other answers. Yeah, especially since there were only about 200 answers. Okay, so when we take that out of the sum, yeah, the sum goes down a whole bunch, and then you're dividing it by how many there were. Then, the number of answers that there were doesn't change very much. It changes from like 205 to 204, but it's that sum on top of the average, on the top of the fraction in the average formula. That's what changes a whole bunch. And then for the median, I mean, you just think about what you're doing when you take the median. You're putting all the answers in order. So deleting one answer from that ordered list, it doesn't really affect where the middle of the list is very much. The middle of the list, like, almost everybody answered 0 or 1. So if we try to look around the middle of this sorted list here, there were 205 entries, I think. So the middle should be like around here somewhere. And you see, like, it's ones as far as the eye can see. So you could delete like 10 or 20 entries from this list of data and you'd probably still have the median of 1. All right, so I hope that makes sense to you guys. The median doesn't change much because we're using sorted list where a whole bunch of middle entries were all ones. Okay. All right, so that is this homework, and hope it made sense to you. Send me an email if it didn't.